family? CTR Media Network. Yeah. Best in the biz. Yeah. Join the team. CTR is who we are, the media network, that's the best by far. Whether you listen at your home, at your job, in your car, come get the information that's needed above par. Never lasting, motivational podcasting, giving you the answers to the questions that you're asking. Serious talks and topics, how to come up and profit, how to better yourself, your health is here, we got it. Reaching 350 million, they tuning in. We in 50 different countries, we all can. And like-minded, find your purpose and your assignment. Come get your fix, your feel, your mental alignment. Get active and speak to the masses. Build your influence all levels and all classes. Now you know you can monetize and grow. CTR Media Network, start the show. CTR Media Network.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of CTR Media Network TV. Today, I am honored to introduce a powerhouse in both compliance and podcasting. He's been called the Compliance Evangelist for a good reason. He is the founder of the Compliance Podcast Network, co-founder of the Texas Hill Country Podcast Network, a best-selling author of over 30 books, and he has won 33 podcasting awards. From helping businesses transform culture into profits to releasing up to 6 podcast episodes a day, Tom Fox is here to share how you can turn your message into a movement. If you ever wondered how to grow your business through podcasting or how compliance can actually boost your bottom line, this episode is for you. And so without further ado, let's welcome to the show, the one and the only Tom Fox. Welcome to the show.
Tina, so happy to be here with you today.
I am too, because you're talking about something that we don't really talk a lot about in podcasting, which is compliance. Because everyone now, because podcasting is trending, everyone wants to start a podcast, everybody want to do all this stuff. But have you ever thought about the compliance factor of podcasting? And you have been able to create actually a platform that's centered around this compliance. So they call you a name. So they call you the Compliance Evangelist. So what's the story behind that name?
So I am a lawyer by professional background. In my last job, I was general counsel at a company that had violated a law and had a very big fine and penalty. And through that experience, not only I was part of the new management team that came in to try to rectify the problem. And I learned about compliance, which I didn't know anything about before then. I determined that I saw a market need for someone like myself to write and talk about that. And I decided to fill that out. This was like 2010. And I started blogging, and podcasting was just a natural extension. So I did that for a while and decided to form the network. And I realized that, so this was 2017, and back then the magic number was 30,000 downloads a month. If you had 30,000 downloads a month, you could get advertising or sponsorship dollars. I knew I would never get 30,000 downloads on a podcast on compliance. But I thought, well, maybe if I had 10 podcasts that were 3,000 downloads each, I could get the same effect. So by design, I started a podcast network with a lot of podcasts, and that's only grown. So that's where it started.
Wow. Okay. So you started, you solved the problem. You said, okay, you're supposed to get like 30,000 downloads. How I'm going to do that? I'm speaking on a topic most people not really talking about that much, or at least afraid to talk about. So how am I going to do it? So let me build a podcast network centered around. So that was a great idea, to start a podcast network that is centered around compliance. Like you said, being a lawyer by profession, we run into issues, especially dealing with business. So compliance is a very important factor for us to take into account. And you started blogging. So was it just a natural progression that led you from going from blogging to podcasting?
It was, because I was doing blogging for marketing. And so it was a next logical step. And what I learned sort of from that experience into podcasting is there are lots of reasons to start a podcast. In fact, I say every business needs a podcast. And that if you have a podcast, you can get your message out. You can show yourself as a thought leader. You can develop relationships. You can grow an audience. You can create content for social media sharing, and you can make sales. And then you get to talk to cool people like you all day long. So what's not to love?
Yes, I absolutely love it. It's really a great networking tool as well, and a marketing tool, because you're consistently creating content that is relevant, and whomever is your ideal audience, you'll be able to touch them in a different way because they can connect with you through podcasts. And they can pretty much take you on the go because now you can download the apps and stuff like that. So it's just an amazing way to stay connected and invested with the people who you're helping. But when we think about businesses and podcasting in general, how does compliance make business more effective and more profitable?
So compliance makes business more effective because effective compliance is essentially financial controls. And if you have good financial controls, your business will run more efficiently. And if your business runs more efficiently, you'll make more money. So we call it compliance. Lawyers write it, but it's really financial controls. And if you've got good financial controls, like I said, you're going to make money.
That's true. You are going to make money because you have all the things in line for you to be able to make a profit. And I have found with compliance, it also creates the avenue that can make your business scalable. So you can have this growth that you can't have if you're not in compliance with what you're supposed to be doing. Now, it's been mentioned that you have authored over 30 books and you have received 33 podcast awards, which is not an easy thing to be able to do. So what led you down this path of creating these books and combining the business ethics, which is the compliance, and then the media side of it?
So as a lawyer, I always wrote a lot of articles. When I started my private practice, I started blogging. And I remember after I'd done it a year, I emailed a guy who was a mentor and said, I just blogged every day for a year. Aren't I great? And he emailed me back. He said, yeah, you're great. When's your book coming out? And I thought, oh, there's more to the blogging than this writing every day. Anyway, everything I do is geared towards creating something that's going to be a part of a book. So a blog can be a page of a book. 5 blogs 1 week can be a white paper. 5 white papers can be a chapter. And so everything gears towards a book at the end of the year. And I turn out 3 or 4 books a year based on that model. And podcasting fits right into that because every podcast transcript becomes the basis, the first draft of a chapter.
Wait a minute. Okay. We got to back this up because you just dropped a gem that I think somebody gonna miss it in the back of the room. We have to back this up. You just gave something that is incredible. There are so many people that want to write a book and they're making it very difficult, but they may already have a podcast, right? And they're doing all this content. And you're saying a podcast episode could possibly be the first page or the first chapter building out your own book. And if you write a blog.
Let me tell you how I stumbled on this.
Wow.
I live near a little town in rural West Texas. And I interviewed an author who had written a book on leadership, business leaders in that little town. And at the end of the interview, he goes, how old do you think I am? I'm like, well, I don't know. Late 70s, early 80s, maybe. He was 92. And I said, I'm impressed. And and then somehow he says, I've always wanted to write my own autobiography. And I said, you've written 7 books. What's stopping you? Get off your duff. And he's like, well, this or that or whatever it was. Okay. I said, here's what we're going to do. You are going to write me 10 one-page outlines chronologically of your life. I'm going to interview you on those outlines. I'm going to give you those transcripts. You're going to use those transcripts as the basis of a chapter of a book. So you have 10 chapters. Then you're going to publish your autobiography. And he goes, what are you going to get out of it? I said, I'm going to get a podcast. Literally, that guy's life. And he did. And he published it. And we won a huge podcast award for it. Unfortunately, at that age, he passed away. But I got to give the award to his widow. And what I learned is you can take the same thing you and I are doing and make that into a part of a book. So I've written books based on podcast series. I've done podcast series based on books. And they are huge monetization opportunities. You can get $25,000, $35,000, $40,000 for that whole process. So you can make money and have fun.
And you're doing it anyway. Okay. Oh my goodness. I don't know what's going on with you guys with these interviews. Y'all making me get lost for words. I'm like, wait a minute. That was like, Tom, you just dropped the mic. Yes, you did. You just dropped the mic. That's going to help so many people, including myself. I'm not leaving myself out the equation. That's going to help so many people because we never thought about our podcast episodes in quite that way. You want to say something else about it? It looked like you wanted to say something.
Say the guests you have, you could get, whoever you want, 10, 20, 30, whatever you want, get their permission. So I want to use part of your interview for a book. No one's going to say no to being in your book, number one. So you don't have to worry about that. But then you have this book on why to have a podcast, how you can use a podcast, how to publicize yourself in a world with so much noise. How can you get your message out? As I'm looking at your screen, where content meets impact. Well, if you want to have an impact, you have a book.
Mm-hmm. That is remarkable. And so since we're talking about all this podcasting, and I know that you launched your Compliance Podcast Network, but how did you grow your podcast network to 50 plus people? Because I know you mentioned about 30,000 downloads, but what led to that growth?
So one of my favorite phrases is when preparation meets opportunity, luck occurs. And I got really, really lucky. And here's how I got lucky. In 2019, I said, I had started the network in 2017. I putzed around for a couple of years. And I said, look, I've either got to fully commit to this or move it to hobby status. So quit practicing law, bought all the cool toys, built this huge network. And at the end of the year, I'd made about $10,000. And I thought, well, that was interesting. Guess we have to go back to practicing law. So I did in the first quarter of 2020 till they shut the country down. And what happened was starting about May 15th of that year, I got the exact same call from every product provider in the compliance world. And these are all software companies. And the question was, how long to get access to your network? Because prior to COVID, all marketing was done at trade shows, conferences, breakfast roundtables, lunches, dinners, you name it, but it was all in person and nobody did social media marketing. Well, I already had the biggest social media network in compliance. And I went from, I think, 60,000 downloads a month. Now this is across the network to 200,000. I had my first 250,000 month in August of 2020, just because, of COVID and everybody was starved for information. So, and I made a lot of money. So, since that time, I've just been trying to consolidate the explosion of growth I had.
Yeah. Like COVID really made everybody shift because like you said, mostly everybody was in person. Very few people was doing online stuff consistently. I mean, we'll use it, but not like that, but we had to. And so it just opened up another opportunity. And you were smart enough to be able to say, wait a minute, let me look how I can use a not so ideal situation to become the ideal situation. And you're number one on compliance. What are these people going to do? They're going to come to you. And they're going to want, because you're so niche on what you do, they know that that's their target audience. So it's just a win-win situation. And I would say it's a great thing when we hear the phrase turn lemons into lemonade. You had lemons and then you went and turned into lemonade, and now you're like, oh, this is good. Yes. So when I think about the people who are watching and listening, most of them are entrepreneurs or content creators. So how does compliance actually translate into helping them be able to grow their business and or podcast that can help them be more profitable?
Well, like I said, it's never too early to have good financial controls. If you have rigor in your business books and records, I think you're going to be more efficient and make money. But the podcast part of it is really what I try to get entrepreneurs and small business owners to understand, that there's 5 reasons, or I have 5 reasons for a podcast: thought leadership, audience engagement, business relationship, content creation, and sales. I pretty quickly learned that if I sent someone an email and said, my name is Tom Fox, I practice law in this area, I'd like to talk to you about doing some work for you, I might or might not get a response. But if I email somebody and say, my name is Tom Fox, I have this podcast, I want you to come in and talk about you, you will get 100% positive response. Well, you now have a relationship with that person. Obviously you can show thought leadership, but the other thing that I've really come to understand, Tina, is it's the social media marketing content creation that is almost as powerful as the podcast. So I create 4 videograms for every podcast I do, 3 at 60 seconds or less for YouTube, Facebook, X, and Instagram, 1 at 2 minutes or less for LinkedIn. Now, obviously I can get people to link to the podcast, but if you do it right, there's always a clip you can use to market. And, if you cut a short enough clip, if you have a 30-second clip, you can put that with an email and say, hey, I was talking to Tom Fox about this, check it out. So it's that all of those assets, because in my world of compliance, almost every company has a CMO, but they don't have any content creators. And that's what they need. Is they need a white paper. They need a something to drive traffic behind their gates on their website. And so that's what a podcast can provide you. And once again, it's not anything more than you're already doing.
And so for those who are listening, you said white paper. What is a white paper?
White paper is just a long paper, 5 pages or more. So if I write 5 blogs of 1 page each, I put them together, I got a white paper.
Oh, okay. Very simple, very simple. Okay,
Yep.
So wow. And you're right. A lot of companies, we have CMOs, which is a chief marketing officer, but who is the chief content officer? Does that even exist in a C-suite? No, it need to. And you're absolutely right. The economy and the way that we receive information now is a content-driven digital world. And content, people are bombarded by it, but also they do take in who they're going to support, what they want, who they want to learn from, who they want to connect to. And podcasting is one of those things that is super trending right now. But even before then, we had video. And so how you're able to take one podcast episode, and I love it because you're repurposing it in so many different ways. You can make white paper. You can make a blog. You can make a chapter of your book. You cut it up and make reels or shorts, wherever platform you're on. They call it a little bit different things, but it's the same thing. I don't know if many of the podcasters are really realizing exactly what one episode can do for them.
Well, let me tell you what I do for them. Anybody that comes on my network, here's what they get. They get the links. They get the embed code. They get the 4 videograms I mentioned. They get 3 to 6 tweets. They get Instagram. They get LinkedIn. They get Facebook. I'm not a TikTok guy, so no TikTok. I write out all of those. If they're very nice to me, I'll write them a blog. So that's about 20 different pieces of social media marketing content that I get from every podcast. And that's what I give to my guests. And it's an extremely powerful package of assets that is evergreen that they can use literally all year long.
And it's helping them, but it's also helping you as well, because this is your podcast. It's going to drive them back to your network, as well as word of mouth. They're going to be like, oh, you need to go on Tom Fox podcast. Like, this is what he does for his people. So, I mean, that is ingenious. So when speaking of podcasting, you're not just, I would say, a podcaster. You're like a podcast marathon runner. Like, you are running the course. You're running it fast because you create like 6 episodes a day. So how do you manage to create that so much on that scale of 6 podcast episodes a day?
So I have a creative team that does all my social media creation. And I do the interviews and I write the blog posts.
Wow. I mean, just to take the time to be able to manage your time so that you can be available to not only do podcast episodes, but to be interviewing other people. Because right now, I mean, he's a podcaster, but he's on our show right now. So that's amazing, Tom. Amazing. And that's something that as podcasters, we can aspire to become, to do a little extra, some more things. So why do you believe that? Because you mentioned that every podcaster, or not podcaster, every entrepreneur, I should say, should have a podcast. And I 1000% agree with you. But why do you feel that they should start a podcast, even in their niche industry? I know you're compliance, but whatever niche industry they're in.
Because it is a free channel of marketing that's available to you. It doesn't take away from anything else you're doing. If you're an influencer, if you're on television, wherever you may be, it's not going to take away from any of that. It's only going to supplement it and give you more assets to market with.
Beautiful, beautiful. I hope you guys heard that, because I say it too. I'm like, where's your book? Where's your podcast? You know, or podcast interviews. Who shows you went on if you're not doing a podcast per se? It really helps you with building your credibility and your influence with whatever it is that you're doing. But with that being said, what are some of the top, I would say, the 3 things that businesses make mistakes on when they start a podcast that you see?
Well, first of all, I don't think there are any mistakes in podcasting. And I get asked, tell me all the mistakes you made, or tell me your top 3. I did make one mistake, but every podcaster makes this mistake. And I'll talk about that in the end. But, and the reason I say I haven't made any mistakes is because everything I've done, I've learned from. And whether it's, I didn't do very well in that interview, I wasn't prepared, wasn't on my game, whatever it may have been. Well, I've been doing this now for 13 years. When last month someone said, you're looking down too much. And they were right, because I keep my notes in front of me. And if somebody's really good, I'm writing notes down. And I realized that was taking away from the visual experience. Now, I did make one mistake. I bet you've made a mistake. This mistake, everyone's made it. And that is forget to hit the record button.
Yeah.
And once you make that mistake, you never make it again.
Yeah. I mean, and it seems so, like, how could you forget not to mash the button, right? I mean, I'm laughing because it just took me back to, I had this whole amazing interview conversation and then realized, oh no, I didn't record. I didn't click the record button. I'm like,
I flew to Boston to interview a Harvard professor. He gave me an hour and a half. It was absolutely great. And at the end, I looked down and I went, why is the red button dark?
oh my mercy.
Yes. So I learned, that was the lesson I learned. Always make sure you hit record.
Yes. And like Tom said, we as podcasters, you're going to have to understand you're going to make, it's just part of the process. You're going to make mistakes. But I tell you what, I learned more for the things that I thought was like the most terrible thing ever, that it made me more better in regards to what I do now, because now I know, wait a minute, let me second check to make sure this thing is recording, or looking down, like you said, I did not know that I wasn't looking like spot on to the camera when I transitioned into virtual, because it's different when you're sitting in the room with somebody versus when you are recording virtually like we are today. And I like to look at the person as they're talking, but guess what? If I'm looking at Tom while Tom talking, I'm looking like I'm not interested. I'm looking like I'm looking off. So I got to remember to look at the little shiny button, the little shiny little light, because I'm talking to the audience. So it's little small little nuances that we have to learn as we grow in this world of podcasting, I should say. But it doesn't take away from the content with what you said. It's just the aesthetics of how it looks. So when I think about what you're doing with your network and podcasting, what drives your passion?
I am a voraciously curious person, and I've always read a lot. But what I found was I could consume more information interviewing people, because all I do every day is talk to the smartest people in compliance in every different area. And it's not that I'm the smartest guy in compliance, but I'm talking to the smartest people in compliance. And so I have an 800-page compliance handbook that I update every year. And it's, in my humble opinion, the best compliance handbook out there. Well, the reason is I'm doing just like this. I'm talking to the top people. And so I get the top information to update my handbook with annually. And I just absolutely love that.
With this podcast, I talk to the top people dealing with podcasts and dealing with marketing and media. And I also realized a piece that I was missing, which was compliance. So when I saw you, I was like, I don't know anything about what other than what I have to fill out for my business. I don't know the nuances. So let's bring on, and I saw you have a network. So I'm like, okay, redirect them to his network so they can get all the compliance information that they need. So I thoroughly enjoy, I'm very inquisitive too. Just like you, I like to know more things and be in the room with different people. So podcasting has definitely done that for me as well. So you talk about businesses and they need to prepare for the coming conflict with China. Has that already happened? Is it going to happen? What are you talking about?
Well, the conflict with China didn't start with Donald Trump. It's been going on, brewing a long time. And it certainly heated up under the first Trump administration, but Biden didn't slow down. And so what I was trying to get people to understand is we are moving towards something that can either be very, very bad, which is a conflict, or less bad, which is sort of where we are now in a big trade war. Well, if you're a U.S. multinational, you're probably in China, or you're getting goods out of China, or you have some sort of business relationship with a Chinese company. Well, how are you going to maintain all of that? And you need to think about that from the compliance perspective, because what if it's 20% of your business? Or if you want to look at it in a different way, in doing a podcast a couple of years ago, I learned the number one purchaser of U.S. cut lumber is the country of China. Okay. What happens if your number one customer is no longer available to you because we're in a trade war with them? How are you going to replace that? Are you going to reshore that in the United States? I mean, I think that might be a good idea. Build more houses in the U.S. But you have to be thinking through those issues a little bit ahead of time to be able to respond quickly. So what I wanted to do with that provocative statement is, hey, we're going down some road. Hopefully it won't be really bad, but it's going to put some pressure on every business, and you need to be at least thinking about it and ready to respond.
I'm glad you brought that up because we hear all this thing about tariffs. We see all the different things. And now we're starting to see more businesses come into the forefront with saying how it's actually affecting them with the exporting and importing of things that actually help the functionality of their business. We not thinking about where did this podcast might come from, the lights that we're using, the functionality of our business as a whole, until something like this happened and we're like, now where I'm going to find another vendor. Oh, well, if I go to another vendor, the price might be 3, 4, 5 times more than what I'm accustomed to paying, which is going to change my bottom line. So what am I going to do with the surplus? So I really feel that that's a good thing that you put out there for us to even start contemplating and even thinking about as we see things change. Hopefully it won't get any worse, but you can at least start preparing and get you a plan B, a plan C. So you actually have another podcast or a part of another podcast network, which is called the Texas Hill Country Podcast Network. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So I live in a rural part of West Texas called the Hill Country, and it's just that. It's hills, which are unusual in Texas. When I got here, I started the third podcast in the Hill Country. And then I met up with some guys who had the idea to start a Hill Country Podcast Network. And what their vision was they wanted to show local businesses that social media marketing is a valuable strategy, because I live close. The closest town I live to is 25,000 people, 3-day-a-week newspaper, no TV, no radio. And so the only marketing is literally the newspaper. And 38% of the county is over 65. Well, guess where they're all on? Facebook. Why aren't you marketing on Facebook if your audience is already there? So their vision was, let's get these guys to have a podcast, whether it's a car dealership, financial advisors, businesses. I was much more interested in human interest stories. So the human stories behind businesses, authors, artists. I fell in with the local artist community, and there's a musician community. There we have a huge kind of folky scene down here. So I started all of those podcasts that talk about all of those things. I started a movie director's podcast, started an actor's podcast. So I'm telling the stories of all these individuals who may not have ever had their stories told in this way before. And everybody's got a story, everybody. And, but because we're all so unique. And so that's what I try to do, is tell their stories.
Love it, love it, love it. So you made another podcasting network. And what I want you to do now, Tom, is tell if it's anything else you would like to share with our audience, go ahead and share that right now. But in particular, I want you to tell them where do you want them to connect with you?
Well, 2 things. If you don't have a podcast, get off your duff and start one. Don't be calling me saying, what mic do I buy? Get off your duff and buy a mic and start a podcast. If you have a podcast, just keep going, keep plugging away. Get people on your podcast that you admire or that you want to have a business relationship with, or you want to have some sort of connection with, and learn about them. You'll find out their story, and it's a great way to make connections. I'd love for anybody to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm Thomas R. Fox. The 2 networks are the Compliance Podcast Network.net and the Texas Hill Country Podcast.com.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much for sharing all your amazing information with us in regards to what compliance is and actually breaking it down so we can understand dealing with our financials, giving us so many different tips and strategies, and also helping us as content creators and in particular podcasters to see that our podcast is more than just a podcast. Okay. We can actually use what we're doing to create something even better, create a book, create a blog, and make a lasting impact. I mean, at the end of the day, like, I never really thought about it in that way until I'm gonna call it the Fox framework. Oh, okay.
I love it.
I would call it the Fox framework on how you turn your podcast into a book, honey. Because I'm just like, what did he just say? I'm like, that was my aha moment right there. So thank you for sharing all that valuable information. And do you have anything else you want to say? You want to share?
I just want to say thank you for coming on my podcast. I want to get you on one of my podcasts.
I will be honored. Just go ahead and connect because I would love to be on your show and further our relationship of this networking between two podcast networks. I just love it. So absolutely, just reach out. You know how to get me. Absolutely. So thank you so much for being a featured guest on our show. You guys, listen. This was an amazing episode. He definitely, Tom Fox definitely helped us with podcasting power and how to actually create profit for ourselves and how you can do that within the means of compliance, how you can actually use what's going on in the world with culture to prepare yourself and how content actually can help to grow your business. This is indeed an episode that you're going to need to rewatch. You're going to also need to do something else. You're going to need to go and to connect with Tom Fox on both of his podcasting networks to make sure that you get in the know of what's going on in compliance and be able to connect with some of his amazing podcasters. He have over 50 plus podcasters on his platform right now. In counting, is growing as well. So make sure to go over there and check him out. For those of you who are watching us on social media right now and you want to be able to take us on the go, I'm going to tell you how you can do it. You can download our CTR Media Network app on your iPhone or Android phone, or if you have a Roku player, Amazon Fire TV, Apple TV, or Android TV, you can simply scan our QR code right now and download the app so that you can watch not only this show, but all the shows that are currently on CTR Media Network. We have the Media and Wealth Summit coming up in Columbia, South Carolina in October the 11th. We want you to come down, visit us, where we're going to be speaking all things media. Of course, you know your girl going to be talking about podcasting and TV and all the good things. But we're also going to have financial advisors in the building, grant writers, and everything to help you be able to build your wealth along with your personal life and personal brand. And these are some of the speakers that we're having. We have some surprise panelists that is going to be in the building, but you only going to know about them after you get your ticket. We have so much amazing things planned for you. So make sure to get your ticket while they're on sale right now today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Same time, same place. Have an amazing day. Bye. Have you heard about Book Authority's best new podcasting book winner, which is Dr. Tina J. Ramsay, for her book, The Power of Podcasting, Unlocking Tips and Strategies for Podcasting Success. This book is your podcasting coach in a book. She is sharing so many strategies. This book reached #1 twice on Amazon for new release and best-selling book. So go ahead to ctrmedianetwork.com to purchase your copy today, or simply place your order on amazon.com today and unleash the power of podcasting. CTR Media Network is now accepting new podcasters to join our growing network that's reaching 350 million global listeners. Have you heard? CTR Media Network offers podcast production, podcast training, distribution, and product placement. Book us for your next event or schedule an interview with CTR Media Network podcasters today. To learn more, go to ctrmedianetwork.com.